Good morning. We are live. It is Wednesday. What is it? The 23rd. This is my grandfather's birthday. It's the 23rd of June. And here we are in the middle of talking about, is your mind working for you or against you? I am Jen Sugarmeyer, your host of Higher in Heels, and we are live at 6 a.m. every day, Central Standard Time. This is YouTube, so you can come and watch this at any time. But the intent of me going live and getting up at 4:45 in the morning, quite frankly, is what's happening, is because we want to get intentional about our day. So I would love if you would subscribe, and if you would share this with your friends, anyone who needs that boost. Go grab your cup of coffee, your water, whatever your morning routine is, and let's get our minds really strong for the day. You know, we saw back in 2020 that so many women were getting burnt out and they were stepping out of leadership. And so there's been so many opportunities and I've heard this from younger women. Where are the mentors? Where are the leaders that we look up to? So this is about creating a community for us women to get strong about our minds so that as we go into the office, and sometimes, quite frankly, you may be in a male-dominated industry, or you might be starting that business, or maybe you're in a female-dominated industry, whatever it is, but we want to have that strong mind so that we go out and we can face that day with peace and clarity. And we feel strong and we're intentional about it. So that's what this show is all about. Higher in Heels. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please share. That sounded weird when I said it. So that's why I said it twice. I was like, is that a word? And then I was like, yes, it is. You ever get those words in the English language or you're like, is that the word? Anyway, that was one of those moments. So is your mind working for you or against you? And we talked about on Monday that the best way to tell if it's working for you or against you is, are you in this state of suffering? And we define suffering as fear, frustration, anxiety, resentment, boredom, embarrassment, anything where you don't feel good. If you're not feeling good, and I'm going to take sadness out of this, I'm going to take that out because there is something called grief, and we can talk about that. I talk about that in some of my programs and that. So we're just going to take that one and like put it to the side. We'll put a little asterisk there. We can talk about that another day. But when you're in a mode where you just don't feel good, yeah, that's what we're talking about. And the truth is, the 6 inches that are in between both of your ears, that has all of your answers. That has all of your solutions. So there are tools that we can engage in our minds, and that's where we get the answers to whatever it is that's going on. So we don't have to be in this state of suffering. So where do we want to be? We want to be in a beautiful state. Call it whatever you want. I like to call it a beautiful state, but that's where you have clarity, where you have peace, where you have joy, where you're just calm. You feel comfortable, not this chaos that's happening over here. Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where it's just super chaotic? What do you say? I need a vacation. And where do you want to go? You want to go to the beach. You just want to go put your feet in the sand because it feels good. Yeah. So that's where you want to be. You want to be on the beach. You want your feet in the sand. But the truth is, life isn't slowing down. You're still going to have all of the things. And so you can still have your busy life with your feet in the sand if you just learn how to engage the 6 inches that are in between your ears. That's it. So that's what we talk about every single day, are different tools, the way that the mind works. Yesterday was super powerful. We were talking about neuroplasticity and how the brain, everything you have is a belief, and you learn things, especially when we're young. We're taking in so much information. My niece is almost 2 years old, and I just look at how, like, every time we talk, she's saying new words and she's doing new things and getting into new things. And I'm like, it's been like a week or a month or whatever. It hasn't been that long, but she's just absorbing. She's like a sponge. So parents, you got to be careful what you say around your kids, because they are picking things up at rapid speed. Boy, had I learned another language at that time? Wow. I know I tried to do it. Not I tried. So I do speak Italian. Some. I can have a conversation-ish. I'll put an asterisk on the ish as well. Along with sadness, there's an asterisk on my ability to talk in Italian. But I did it as an adult, and it took me much longer. It's not that it's not possible, this whole you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can. It just takes a little bit longer. But as we're a kid, we're learning, and that is our belief system that we are starting to develop. And so our brains have these pathways that we're just growing, and this is how we go. So if you see an oven, you say, oh, that's hot. Maybe you got bit by a dog, and you go, oh, all dogs are bad. Dogs are going to bite me, whatever that is. And your belief system you own, because not everybody thinks the dog is bad. They don't. And true, when an oven is on, that's a fact. It's hot. But it doesn't mean that when it's off, or there might be varying degrees, or I don't know, just stay away from the oven. Okay. Jen's not telling you to go test out the oven, but I am telling you that not all dogs are bad. So that much I will tell you. So are you your worst enemy, or are you your biggest supporter? And I never stopped to ask myself that question. And I realized a few years ago that what I said to myself matters. And so today, Wednesday, we tend to talk about Words Matter Wednesday, because they do. The words that we say to ourselves, they matter. So what are you saying to yourself? I think about a coach in, let's say a coach, a kid's soccer team. Think about the coach that's like, why? Why did you do that? Versus the coach that, and we hear this positive reinforcement. We want positive reinforcement. Why? Because that's what sticks better with children, with any human. We want to hear what we did that was good. And when we hear that, then we want to do it again. Hey, good job, Jen. Now, I may have missed the goal, but you know what? I did something good. And whatever the coach says, hey, you did something good, I think, man, I'm going to do that again because that felt good. We all want to hear like, hey, good job. It feels good. It feels good. Doesn't mean you need your ego stroked, but I think every single one of us needs to hear from time to time, hey, that was a really good job. When I give a speech, if people come up and say, hey, you did a really good job, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I remember when I was in Afghanistan. So I spent almost a year in Afghanistan, and there was this woman, we were playing volleyball. And I am not one that has played sports typically in my life. I tried basketball for a couple of years. It didn't go over all that well. I mean, I was okay. But it just wasn't my passion. I'm more a musical family, and, mom and dad both sang, played music, played instruments, the whole nine. So it wasn't so much sports in my world. It was more music and that. So here I am in Afghanistan. There's not a ton to do over there. And we get this game of volleyball going. I'm like, great. I'd love to play. Well, there's a woman, and she's the same size as me. So I'm 6'1". She's also like 6 foot. She's 6'1". Anyway, she was a couple years older than me, and she was also my boss. Now, there are very few people in this world that I'm like, oof, I don't really think I ever need to see that person again. She's on the list. She's on the list. Like, this woman was like, ugh. And it was because of the way she spoke to me, not just on the volleyball court, but at all times. At all times. So I'm like, you know what? Kind of toxic to my life. So here's how the volleyball game went. Why did you do that? How could you miss that? Are you watching the ball? Are you in this game? And I was just out there having a good time. I'm like, there's stuff going on around us. We're in the middle of a base, mortars come in sometimes. And so we have to go hide in the bunkers. I'm just trying to have a good time, play a little game of volleyball, a friendly game of volleyball. I didn't know this was a competition. There's no prizes. Like, what are we doing here? But the way she talked to me was so polarizing, that I was like, I'm done. I'm actually not interested in playing again. So the next time it's like, hey, Jen, you want to play? No, I don't. I don't want to play your game because the way you talk to me, I don't need that. So, I had to learn to speak up for myself because some people, I mean, and I know I've been there. I've allowed people to talk to me in a way that I'm like, hold on, you do not, you do not talk to me that way. And it's something you've got to get comfortable with because you're the only one that can stand up for you. And I was like, okay, chick, that's fine that you're my boss. And maybe in the office, one thing, but I ain't getting on a volleyball court with you because I'm not going to get torn down that way. But why did I feel so badly about that conversation? It's because the way she talked to me mattered. She was so critical of how I was playing or not playing that I didn't even have time to think about, maybe what the game. I was just so in defense mode of like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. That like my brain just fritzed. And then of course I don't feel good about myself. I'm like, man, I ruined the game. This is crappy. Everybody's better than me. I start comparing myself. Like it was just, I was like, oof, I'm not putting myself in that position again. And guess what? I sort of have this like, I don't know if it's PTSD or not, but when people are like, hey, you want to play volleyball? The question I always ask is this a competitive game of volleyball? Because if so, I'm not interested in it. And I tell people, I like to play with really, really average people. Like if you're good at the game at all, I don't want to play with you. But if you are just like, and you want to have a good time, we miss the ball, we laugh about it, then that's the game I want to be a part of. It's because I was so, like, I'm still bruised from that situation. But how many times are we doing that to ourselves? Why did you do this? Why weren't you there? Aren't you watching the ball? Aren't you doing this? What about your business? Da, 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 da. And we're tearing ourselves down. And whether it's somebody else that's telling you this or you're telling your own self, it matters. It's that difference of positive reinforcement versus just tearing yourself down. Now, okay, Jen, well, what about just getting opinions from people and maybe they're not so positive? Yeah, maybe they're a little critical, but they're positive. Okay, I don't see any issue with that. I don't see any issue with that with yourself. I don't see any with others if it's done in the right way. So if somebody's coming at you and saying, "Why did you do this?" versus, "Hey, let's sit down and talk, are there ways that we could have done this better? What do you think about this?" And we're very calm and we're just looking at it from data. Okay. That's completely different than you yelling at yourself. Go sit in the corner. Think about what you did. If we can remain calm with ourselves and ask ourselves powerful questions, it's okay. When I go shopping, not everything I try on, I'm like, I'm amazing. This looks fantastic. No, there are different types of material that I'm like, that material is not for me. It doesn't complement my body well. It doesn't look that good on me. I don't feel comfortable in it. And that's okay. It's not that everything in your life we have to be all butterflies and roses about and it looks amazing. I mean, you could. And I've met people that I'm like, I wish I had a little more of like everything in my life. I'm just so blah, I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I legit put on some clothes and I'm like, that does not look good on me at all. So I'm going to take it off and I'm going to try again. And I'm okay if I ask somebody their opinion, or maybe they want to, there's somebody in the store with me because I'll go out and I'll ask. I've asked random strangers before, hey, what do you think? Does this look okay? Because I'm not totally sure. And usually if I'm asking that question, it means that I shouldn't get it because if I'm questioning, if I don't know immediately, and I shouldn't be asking other people's opinions because it doesn't matter for them anyway, right? But sometimes we do. need a little extra. And so we ask people, hey, what do you think about this? And it's okay if somebody's like, probably not the best. Maybe try this one. These are okay conversations to have with yourself. There is a huge difference between us looking and saying, what are the lessons that we can learn here? What went well? What maybe didn't go as well that we can improve upon next time? Versus us slamming ourselves. Man, you are so stupid, Jen. You are so stupid. That is not the conversation that we want to have. So, how do we gauge this for ourselves? Are we having a positive internal dialogue, or has something gone over to the dark side where we are a critic of ourselves? And I like to think of children and how we talk to children. Is this something that coach that is focused on positive reinforcement, is this something that coach would talk to a child about or another human being? There's a lot of conversations that I've had with myself that I would not have with someone else. So ask yourself, would you have this conversation with someone else? Like when I looked in the mirror, or I said that like I did it once. When I have very many times looked in the mirror and said, ooh, you're fat. Would you walk up to a stranger and be like, you're fat? No, that's rude. It's rude. Don't do that to other people, and don't do it to yourself. That's simple as that. Would you say this thing to someone else? Simple. You need to start treating yourself the way you would other people. And I find myself sometimes, I walk by the mirror and I go, ugh, ugh. You know, that ugh, get in the back of your throat. And I catch myself and I'm like, stop. Because I wouldn't be walking by these random strangers. I mean, that would just be rude. Oh, ooh, child. Ooh. Is the way you talk to yourself the way you talk to other people? And you can have that conversation with someone else like, hey, how can we do this better next time? Maybe you have a business partner. Maybe it's your partner in life whom you have a relationship with. Maybe it's your kids. And you say, yeah, I would have that conversation with them. Now, I'm not talking about if you have a bad relationship with your partner and you two get in yelling matches and how that's handled, because that ain't healthy. Okay. I'm talking about healthy conversations that you walk out of and you feel good about. And that's how you need to start talking to yourself, because you know what? You are the only one that can stand up for yourself. When I was playing that volleyball game, I am the only one that can say, whoa, you aren't allowed to talk to me that way. You aren't. I was with this company and they wanted to change my job, and I stood up for myself and I was like, it's not going to get me on the career path that I want to be on. They were ready to move me into a different role that wasn't going to serve me. So had I not spoke up for myself, I'd have been doing that. And then what? I would have had resentment because I'm like, how did I get here? Back to the talk we talked about, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about accountability. You got to take accountability in your life. So if you are truly taking ownership, you got to speak up for yourself. I own this, which means I also have to protect this. Owning it doesn't mean that you just take responsibility for everything. I'll take responsibility and I'll clean up the situation. That's not what ownership and accountability is all about. It's, finding the solutions. It's, hey, that's fine. Whatever happened. I'm just going to find a solution out of this. But it's also protecting who you are as a person. It's your integrity. It's your morals. It's you standing up for yourself. It's you. How you talk to yourself matters. Because if you allow yourself to talk, if you talk to yourself that way, if you allow that to happen, and you don't value yourself more to stand up and say, you know what? I should not be talked to that way. Other people will talk to you that way. And I've been in dating relationships and I've seen it over and over. And I'm like, why are they not treating me right? And I'm like, oh, because I don't treat myself right. So what you say matters. Are you your worst critic or your biggest supporter? What are the thoughts that are going through your head at the end of the day? Start to think about them as they're coming through. As you walk by that mirror and you go, ugh, ooh, is that something I would say to somebody else? Am I getting emotional over this, or is this just data? Is this how I would talk to somebody else? Is this how I would allow somebody else to talk to me? We want to become our biggest supporters. That's where we want to be. So go out and be your biggest supporter today. Go give it a try. See how it feels. Put that shoe on. See if it fits. I'll tell you what, feels really good. Yeah. And again, it's okay. You don't have to look good and everything. Not every clothing, every type of cloth you put on has to be amazing. Maybe it is good for you. Not for me. That's okay. Right? That's okay. So I'll see you here tomorrow. Same time, same place. That's 6 a.m. Central Time, or I'll just see you on the interweb. But make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and please make sure you share, because we're coming up. We want the world to know. We're gonna let it show. Right, ladies? Why? Because we're coming up. We want the world to know. We're gonna let it show. Tomorrow, same time, same place. I love you. See you then. Cheers.